Hey everybody, it's Marius. It's Monday, the 18th, I believe. I was just in a store buying myself a trimmer. I wanted to shave my head and go bald again. And I met the owner of the store. It happened to be one of the very few drugstores where it's not owned by a corporation or a chain. And so it's an independent family-owned business, and I meet the owner. And I'm there, and I said, you know what? I don't need a bag. And he says, oh, that's good. Lots of plastic goes in the ocean. And I used to serve at the Navy, and we used to throw the garbage off the back of the ship. And I was like, you're right. There's lots of garbage that goes in the ocean, and ultimately, we've got to do something about it. And so at the end of the day, if we don't stop going the way that we're going, we're going to have an ocean full of garbage. So, no disagreement on that. But the problem is that he jumped immediately to a solution. His solution was to regulate, fines, forcing people to comply. It's really hard anytime you do something like that to get everybody to comply. I mean, the worst you can do is, give somebody a fine or something like that. And here's the other thing, most people do recycle. You look out here and I see garbage cans, for trash and for recycling. So that's not really the problem. The real problem is that we've got so much trash and we've got so much plastic and things that don't get recycled. At the end of the day, it all needs to go somewhere. And so I don't want to get too in the weeds about this, but what I'd really like to talk to you about is the ability to change mindsets. There are certain things that we can change in life. I've been talking about how we can all have power and change our political system through the way that we're going online and the way that we're putting pressure on people. That's definitely a new dynamic in the way that we can change things in the world. We don't have pitchforks anymore. We can't go out to the Lord on the hill. That's not going to work. In this day and age, our pitchfork is our social media. Our method of communicating our discontent is through social media. And so, with that being said, we need to think a little bit differently about what it means to change any dynamic that we have, whether it's politics, whether it's commercial. So getting back to the issue of garbage, we can't simply, putting a fine on everybody is not going to work. Because again, a lot of people do the right thing as it is. The real problem is what happens once we've collected all that stuff, and it's ready to go somewhere. We really don't have a whole lot of choices. That's the ocean right now. So my way of approaching this is that I don't know what the answer is right now. I've had some thoughts about it, like, let's send it up in space and let's shoot garbage into the sun. It would take a technology that's far cheaper than what we have right now, because of what we have right now, it costs a ton of money for us just to get anything into space. So obviously that's not a near-term solution. Number two is conversion technology, converting different forms of garbage into something else. And so we're not there yet. I mean, we are doing some things, when it comes to taking goo, like 3D, and changing it into other kind of constructs. But at the end of the day, we're not there yet. We don't have a machine that's kind of like Star Trek, where we're converting something from one thing to another. So we're not there yet. I'm going to pause for a sec. Sorry, so I just met somebody from Vienna here while I was walking. And so let's get back to where we were. On the garbage front, so yeah, we could put actions in place that are, regulate and, control people's garbage and all that kind of stuff. Reality, I think, is that, again, most people do the right thing. The end point is really where we're going wrong, which is that we don't have a solution right now into where that garbage is going to go. That's the point that I think that, in our conversation we were just having, that this guy missed, which is that, there isn't really anywhere for this to go. You could recycle stuff and, you could do all that, but at the end of the day, you're still going to have a byproduct of things that you can't convert, things that you can't recycle. And so, again, I'm not saying that I know what the solution is, but part of what we need to do in our politics, in our society, is to say it's okay. We don't know. We don't have a solution for this at this present time. And once we can do that, because we do that as individuals all the time, right? We actually say, you know what, I don't know. We don't. I mean, there's all sorts of situations. Taxes, who of us can think of taxes and do it like that? Most of us need like TurboTax or something like that. So, it's really rare in life that we can go through knowing everything. So it's okay for us to say, I don't know. With that being said, once we've acknowledged, and that's what I talk about a lot in my personal videos that I do on the social side, which is that there's a 3-step process to everything: acknowledgement, assimilation, and action. And if you're just going to action, the end point, then you're not going through the steps that really lead you to the best kinds of solutions. I mean, maybe the action will be a good action, but at the end of the day, if you haven't gone through the thought process, if you haven't molded over, if collectively we haven't molded over, where we've discussed it and where we've had some kind of input and feedback and, from other people that are in different disciplines, whether it's, garbage or whether it's, technology, whatever, engineering, we're going to come up with limited solutions which really do not address the problem at the end of the day. So, again, to address any problem that we have, personal, social, political, we've got to acknowledge the problem first. Then we can move on to assimilating that information. And what we do in our brains as humans all the time is we don't necessarily come up with unique ideas that are only ours and nothing before, ever influenced that idea. Usually what we do is we take things that are out there and we recombine them in our mind, and then we come up with another solution. That's the genius, that's the brilliance that we have. Thank you, Kay. That is the brilliance that we have, which is we have this ability to change things by using the knowledge that's floating around in our head. And sometimes even without us necessarily think about it, the solution comes. So when we don't do that process on a broader macro level as a society, then we tend to come up with really bad solutions. And we see that all the time. There's a case right over here at Metro where, it would have been better if the Metro was underground, but they decided to build it overground. Now it's like in the way of all the roads. It's a complete fucking mess. And Tyson's can't really grow the way that it needs to because the way that they planned this thing was stupid. The input existed. There were people there that said, let's take a look at this. Let's slow down for a moment. Let's think of how we could do this better. And, there was a group of people that said, no, we need to go ahead. The federal government isn't going to match our money. We need to get something. Well, when you get something, usually it's not the best thing, is it? Something sometimes is pretty bad. It locks you in to bad decisions in the long run. So I think the lesson there is that just that attitude of doing something sometimes leads us to really bad decision making. This video is getting kind of long, so I'm going to stop it here and let you guys do the assimilating. So this video is kind of like you acknowledge some of the things that I said in it, hopefully, and then you take all this information into your head and you assimilate it. And maybe you come up with a completely different action, you know, that information combines itself and lends itself to an idea. And that's what Change and Evolve is all about, which is combining that information that you have, whether it's from me or whether it's from other people, you know, and you combine those sources of information in your head to come up with something new. That's the power of what we've got today. That's the power of social media. It's the power of our collective genius. It's not one of us. And that's why I say all the time that when it comes to what's going on, you know, out there in the political system, it's not just one person that comes up with the solution. It's not just one person that says, I've got the panacea for all of you. When somebody says that, you should be running in the other direction, because no time in life, or very rarely in life, does one person have the solutions to everything. It doesn't happen. You know, to use a Hillary term, it takes a village. And regardless of how you think about her, I'm going to use that term, because it really does take a village. And right now we've got some really serious problems. And in order to overcome those problems, we're going to need to find those collective solutions. So acknowledge the kind of thought process that I'm trying to lend to you. Tell yourself how you're going to assimilate that information. And let's get back online or in the meetup groups, or, you know, however we may do it. Let's reconvene. And then let's come up with our feelings of what we assimilated and what we got out of it. And some very powerful things can come out of that. I hope that makes sense. If it didn't, then my fault. I will keep trying. Thank you very much for listening to me. And I appreciate all the feedback. And let's go.